I don't know. I've got too many prompts. It looks like we're live now. What's happening, everybody? Getting everything kind of squared up here. Little bit of a change of pace here going on, a little bit on the early side, mainly because I've got stuff to do. And, well, yeah, there's folks on other coasts that maybe would want to jump on as well. I understand 9 o'clock is a little bit tough. 8 o'clock might be a little bit easier. Is that what time it is anyway? What is it, 8:45? Well, 8 something. Anyway, hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. I want to thank y'all very much. All of y'all have been supporting the channel. I truly appreciate it. For you guys that have given me super thanks, I don't see those a lot of the times. So thank you for that. And of course, to you guys that are on here and are contributing to the show, I do appreciate that as well. So with that, also, first time here, hang out a little bit. If you like what you see, well, consider subscribing. So anyway, kind of an update as far as what's going on for the channel. By the way, I'm getting, what is this? Hang on. I've got like different prompts now. Some things are changed up with what am I doing here? With some of the new YouTube stuff. I'm trying to figure out what's up. Anyway, if your chat message doesn't get thrown up there, it's not me keeping you from being on. I just don't know what the deal is. Anyway, a few things have been going on. So it's been raining, so I haven't been able to really do much of anything with either the car or the truck. Buffy is basically back in the mix now, so Buffy's doing well. Buffy needs more new tires though, but we'll get around to that eventually. I do have my 1 year of ownership video, my review of Stormy coming up. Not probably what you might think I have to say about that truck, although I really do enjoy driving it. I like the truck a lot. I've got some opinions of that truck, especially when you compare it to the classic style, or what's known as the DS Ram. Might be surprised what my takeaway is on that, considering I drive both trucks extremely regularly. So there's that to look forward to. But as far as any other new Mopar content, about the latest thing I've done with the car was the Dr. Fix-A Dents-A thing. Dr. Color Chip, by the way, cool product. It works. And the problem is that what I'm trying to fix is a gouge, not a paint chip. And I think that there's only so much you can do without breaking out a true paint correction pen and some sandpaper, stuff that I've already done to that car on several different occasions. So anyway, I may have to mix that in. We'll see. But the reality is that at least it looks somewhat better. At some point, I am going to remove the fender liner, and I'm going to get in there and try to fix that dent from the backside out. So we'll see how that shapes up. Hopefully I can kind of roll that out a little bit, because right now it's pretty much diming that freaking gouge like you wouldn't believe. And it's just a little bit of a kiss. So because of that, if you don't go looking for it, you will not find it. But the second you go looking for it, it jumps off of that car pretty quick. So anyway, we'll see how that ends up turning out. But really haven't done anything with that car. She's in street trim. What I may do with that car is there's a couple of things that I'm debating. I may put some 3-inch race bullets in the exhaust, just because I'm running into a bit of a, well, it's not really, I'm not taking the car to the drag strip. And so I originally took the resonators off of that car because I didn't like the aesthetic. And I really didn't, the noise of it really didn't bother me because I didn't really pick up on it. But now that I haven't been driving it, I've been driving stuff that's a lot quieter. It's kind of nice, at least from a drone, like rattle your ears off type of a, point of view. So anyway, I'm debating on either putting race bullets on the car or going with a completely different cat back. There's an option out there for an H-pipe, and I might go ahead and employ that, assuming that somebody doesn't offer me money for the car. So for you guys that may not know, the car is kind of for sale. If somebody made me an honest to God offer, I would maybe entertain it. And with that, it would get the wheels and tires, and I'd leave the lightweight stuff alone. You'd get the rear seat. I'm not going to replace it, but you'd get all of that back with the car too. But the main thing is just I'm running out of room, and I've got other things that I'd rather be working on. So getting back to that, T595 is doing well. That's the Triumph motorcycle content. I actually did a kind of an old school, kind of a not really frowned upon, but just kind of an eyebrow fixed to a set to the lower the shifter portion of the lower set. The problem is I had a lot of slop in the actual shifter lever, and getting replacement parts for a 25-year-old Triumph is, well, to get factory replacement parts is pretty tough. So what I did to tighten everything up was 3, 2, 1, you guessed it. Basically, I made some bushings out of zip ties, and what I've done is I've just used those in lieu of like a plastic washer, and it seems to be holding up so far okay. Although I haven't put any real miles on it with that setup, but also did the same because it doesn't use a Heim joint. It uses a ball and socket joint, which is fine, but over time the ball and socket wears out. So I've basically made some spacers with the zip ties too. Be surprised how much of a lot of things are held together with zip ties. Anyway, that is the latest with the bike. Now, I got some sad news for the boat. Unfortunately, the boat has got a cracked block. And so here's the issue with that. The boat, it's a 1984 Chris Craft Scorpion. The problem with the 1984 Chris Craft Scorpion is that when it hasn't been on the water in 25 years, 26 years, a lot of things will be fine for a hot minute and then will fail soon after they're put into service. Just look at the fork seals on the Triumph for a perfect example of how things can start out great and go wrong really quickly. So there's a lot of things that would have to be replaced and fixed, it looks like, on the boat. Even though they're in fine working order in this minute, it doesn't mean they're going to be in fine working order long term. And this is actually a good lesson for you guys if you're thinking about going out and buying an old classic car. Cars, boats, motorcycles, they're all the same in this respect. Age eventually takes over, but it's not age that makes them go bad. It's actually lack of use. And garage rot is one of the worst things that can happen to a car, mainly because it'll trick your brain into thinking that, well, this car or this boat or this bike or whatever is in great shape. It hardly has any miles on it. That's a big no-no. It's a bad sign because it means that every part that could go wrong will go wrong once it gets put into service because it's been dry rotted. It hasn't been utilized. And everything on a car, boat, bike, whatever is a maintenance item. So, even though a fuel line, might last 50 years, eventually it's going to have to get replaced. Same goes for any hydraulic hoses and cables and some wiring and things like that. So anyway, in looking at it, the boat, the problem is the hull is in phenomenal shape, but everything that makes it a motor boat might not be. And even if you're looking at rebuilding costs, swapping out a new engine, which realistically it's going to take, is going to be a bit of a headache. So that project is going to have to get shelved. That might be a permanent shelving. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But and that's not something I can really do. I don't have an overhead crane. And the other thing is it's a boat. This is the other thing. With a car, if something goes a little bit wrong, at least you can pull over, stop, and get out. With a boat or an airplane or something like that, if something goes wrong, you're stranded out in the middle of nowhere. So anyway, we'll see what ends up happening with that. It's a heartbreaking thing, but unfortunately, these are the issues that we run into when we start working on stuff like that. There is another project that I would like to try to do. We'll see if this vehicle comes up available. I don't want to jinx anything. It's kind of Mopar related in a way. But if it does come up, it'll be a cool ass thing, and it would kind of fit what I'm into also a little bit as well. So anyway, we'll see what ends up happening with that, but it is a little bit older, and I'll just leave it at that. It's not a car, by the way. So anyway, lesson learned. Bike's doing great. I put now a ton of miles on the thing, all things considered. I've been getting a lot of help from Triumph of Houston. That crew over there has been great as far as being able to get me parts. Handling some stuff that I either don't have time for. I just don't really have the expertise or a lift and things like that to do. So they're getting all that taken care of, which is cool. And there's still a few things, like I say, the rear set, probably going to put an aftermarket rear set on that bike. It's not something that I want to do, but I think it's something that's going to end up happening. I was talking about putting a quick throttle on it. Right now, the factory throttle is a quarter throttle, which just means that it turns 90 degrees from where it sits idle to wide open throttle. It's 90 degrees. You'd be surprised. That is a long way to roll on a throttle. I would prefer a quick throttle that was more like 65 or 75 degrees. That extra 15 degrees can be a bit of a headache, and a lot of that has to do with where your wrist falls in line on the handlebar at cruise. It's not just wicking through the gears, but anyway, there's part of me that wants to put a quick throttle on it. There's part of me that doesn't. See, the problem is I've got a 1998 Triumph 955. It's a T595, but it's a 955cc engine. And the problem with putting a quick throttle on that bike, it's a lot like putting a quick throttle on any of the big V-twin sport bikes, like a Pria Mille, a RC51, any Ducatis, anything like that. The issue is that you end up in a situation where just partial throttle, the bikes are so torquey that you kind of get a lurchy feel out of it. The right way to go about it isn't really for a full-on quick throttle. Well, it is, but you just don't want as much of a Nautilus shape out of it. So maybe like an 80-degree throttle or something like that if it's available. I haven't even started looking yet, but it's just kind of a thing that I'm used to having on my track bike. That's what I had on a GSX-R 750. I had a quick throttle, and basically it was idle, wide open, idle, wide open, and it was real easy to modulate. So anyway, you can get away with that on a smaller bike just because you don't have the torque production that you do on the bigger bike. So this triple is extremely torquey. It's got a lot of mid-range grunt. Even just cruising down the highway, you don't drop a gear. You just roll onto the throttle, and it just grunts its way forward. And it's weird. It will roll. The cruising, the comfy cruising speed is an indicated 100 miles an hour on that bike, and you just don't ever notice it because of just how much torque is always there. So, but let me get with you guys real quick, and I'll get back. See if you guys have any questions. I want to make sure I'm getting a hold of you guys. Marco is in. What's up, man? Joseph is in. Marco is not liking the the turbo. I hear you, man. Skids is in. B, seen the content. Bike looks rocking. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Marco, you're the Hemi man. Marco's saying, classic is better, told you. Yeah. Loving the older stuff, man. I really am having a lot of fun with this bike, and it's cool reconnecting with it. And I tell you what, so kind of a behind the scenes thing. I really was, this is no joke, I was really debating on putting a 180 tire on the back of that bike. Every bike I've ever owned, sport bike, has, if it came factory with a 190, I've pulled the 190 off and put a 180 on it, mainly because it does two things. It's slightly taller. That doesn't really increase your rake angle by too much, but what it does is it's got more of a V shape to it, as opposed to the 190's more, kind of more rounded. So the 180 is more like my head, where it's pointy like a peanut. And then the 190 is more rounded at the bottom. And the more rounded tire is more stable. And it doesn't get a funky wear pattern in it the way that 180s can if you're doing a whole lot of just upright street riding. This bike is more of I don't really want to call it a cruiser because it's not the right way to put it, but it's about as much of a cruiser as, like, if you were to describe like a 70 Challenger. Like, it's a cruiser, but it's still a sporty cruiser. It's a thing you can have a lot of fun with, and it's still, but it's not a race car, not a race bike in this case. And it's not going to see any track time realistically. If I'm being honest with myself, I doubt this thing ever will. And so since that's the case, 190 is the tire that it's going to get. Another thing about 180s, it makes the bike more flickable. It makes the bike feel like it's a whole lot lighter than what it really is. That's great if you're getting off the bike and you're dropping this thing down in corners. You want something you can drag around. The 190 will make it feel a little bit heavier than maybe you'd want it to feel. But again, just because of the wear pattern and how these tires wear, my experience was always, if you're doing a lot of up and down riding and you're not really banging the thing too hard, just roll with the stock size and you'll be fine. And that's what I did here. Give you an example. I mean, I don't really bang this bike too hard on ramps, off ramps. My chicken strips are like, you saw them in the video, they're about just the other side of a centimeter. I'm really not riding this bike hard at all. Not like that anyway. Base, what's up, man? Good evening. Hey, I liked one of your videos today. The instructional was really cool, man. Good job on that. Teleman saying, yo, I love your content. I've been wondering if you ever see the individual throttle body concept on a 4th gen 5.7 Hemis. I'm interested in the concept. More gains, better mile per gallon? Nah, not really. Not at all. Matter of fact, the only time individual throttle bodies, well, actually, you have to think of it like this. Okay, so you have individual throttle bodies, if you want to think about it now, especially with the 5.7, and especially if it's not a 6.4 or a truck, if it's just a normal intake manifold. I don't have one here, but you have a big plenum with long runners that are dumping into a common plenum that is basically, should be in a 5.7, very close to atmosphere when you're at wide open throttle. Individual throttle bodies don't really help the situation unless you're really trying to spin something at high RPM. And even then, there are intake manifolds that would do the job better and more efficiently. So it's a cool idea in concept, but it worked really well when common plenum intake manifolds really weren't a thing, and when fuel distribution really was tough when you tried to get an individual runner style intake manifold running. You needed the 4 2-barrels to make that work, or individual throttle bodies, individual carburetors to make that work as well. It's not needed anymore. In fact, the last car that I know of that had individual throttle bodies was the M3 with the inline 6. That's the last one. I'm sure there's plenty more that have had it, but that's the last one that I can think of off the top of my head that had that setup. So, they say it had a group conversation. 7 ladies, very gorgeous. A Tesla pulled up. My Challenger was there, and a Super B in back in black. I said, ladies, the Tesla is faster and they like mine. Very nice. Very cool. Bray says he got bitten by the bite bug. I'm thinking of seeking my old G-body and getting a Gen 1 VMAX. There's one for sale in Houston. It's $4,500. And if I could get away with it, I would. Actually, there's 2 for sale. One of them's really clean. I would do it. Gen 1 VMAX. It's the bike that you're thinking of while I'm describing it. Yes, the one from the commercial. Yes, the one where the guy's doing a burnout. Yes, that bike 100%. Love that bike. And I saw it. My eyes just went, But look, here's the thing. I've been around, I've had bikes I've been around bikes my entire, like my first bike at 5 years old was a PW50 Yamaha. I mean, I always had a motorcycle. In fact, it's been weird not having one since I moved back to Texas. So yeah, But the thing about bikes, this is the weird thing about bikes, is that they're like potato chips, man. You can't have just one. And so the VMAX really caught my eye. I also want an obnoxious cruiser bagger, old school type. I'm looking at Indians primarily. I want white walls. I want the fringe on the leather. I want this thing to be ridiculous. That's one. Another bike that I'm looking at. I just want it to be just gaudy and awesome. No metric stuff for that thing. Only American V twin would be I would consider. So either Indian or Harley Davidson. But something older, something that something like that would be cool for me. But yeah, the VMAX is another one. I found a freaking. I'm such an idiot too. The problem is I start looking, and the minute I start looking, I start getting stupid. So I started looking for another RC51, and we'll see if that ever makes it to base. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Should I change my NGKs at 50,000 miles in my Scat? I haven't changed the spark plugs in Buffy, and she's got 180 something thousand miles on it. Slash, thank you very much too. Hey, thank you, B. You always answer my stuff, man. Thank you for hanging out. Yeah, Skids, dude. I just saw your thing. Yes, VMAX for sale in H-Town. Yes. If you want it, yes. Buy it. Just buy it, please. I will hold on to it for you if you need a place to keep it. I have got room for a VMAX. Skid saying India is great. Love it. But yeah, no, base. I wouldn't necessarily. Yes, you can. It's a good practice to do, and it's a 392, so they're super easy to do. NGK 6s is what you're going to be putting in that car. They are iridium, so believe it or not, they last a long time. You don't have to, but it keeps you involved in the car. Then I would say, yeah, go ahead and go for it. But thank you all very much. Thank you, Base, and thank you, Slash. Let's see. I want to say those things are good to, honest to goodness, though, they're really good to like 100,000 miles minimum. Let's see. Make sure I get back to you guys. Skids. Oh, break stuff. Hanging out. I was just picked up a 22 Harley Davidson Street Bob 114 part next to the 22 Duck SS 950. Good bike. Joseph, a car is a hole in the garage to throw money into. A boat is a hole in the water we throw. Yeah. The thing is, unfortunately, the boat, I'm not like a boat guy. Like, I get the cool factor of some boats, but there's some things I like about boats and other things I don't. And I don't know. I'm bummed out that I'm probably not going to be resurrecting this boat. It's going to cost me a lot of money to put this boat in the water. And the unfortunate thing about it, this is one of those situations where there's just not enough back end on this. So if something does go wrong, I can't keep throwing money that I really don't have to spend on a boat at a boat, especially in the situation that I'm in with this, because it will never be worth what I would have to put into it to make it seaworthy, which is a real drag. If somebody were a mechanic and they wanted to put it together and they had the time and the resources and everything to do it, it would be worth it, but not for somebody like me. Itch is in. What's up? No Av is in. What's up, y'all? Slash is asking, does a Mickey Thompson 305 45 17 pair best with a 10, 10.5, or an 11-inch wheel? I would prefer to see it on a 10.5-inch wheel. That's what I run them on back here. They will work with a 10, but I don't like them on a 10. And if you're running it on a Charger, they'll still fit, but well, Well, really, there's no but to it. I mean, you can run them on an 11, but most rims that you would run them on are 10 and a half. So I would say go with a 10 and a half. Frederick, what's cooking? What's up, man? No, I tuned in late, so watching behind pipes. H pipe sounds really good. That's the one I'm talking about. I think you will like the sound better than the H. The thing about the pipes mufflers too, there's guys that run an FAST that run pipes products. They seem to do fairly well. Oh, Skid's saying that, yeah, the Ducati has the 180 55s, the ZR17 Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3s. Awesome tire. That's what I'm running on mine. Love those tires, man. The thing is that they heat up quickly. The good thing about the Rosso, any of the Rosso lineup of motorcycle set, Rosso 2, I don't think is in production anymore, but the trips and the quads are. What I like about the Rossos is that they heat up quick enough for street use. I don't know if I'd want to. You could run them on the track, but I have a feeling that they would pill up pretty quickly. But anyway, nothing could have been worse than the Dunlops I used to run. But anyway, what I like the most about them is that they're real forgiving tires. At least with my bike, I've been a little bit ham-fisted with it, and it's been pretty good. So that set of tires has been pretty good. So I've been happy with them, and I would recommend them to anybody if they're going to be running on a sport bike. It'd be like first sets of tires I would recommend. 120/70 front. Yep, thing loves to cruise at the high speeds. I feel yeah. Mine is super like laid back at 100 miles an hour indicated. 100 miles an hour indicated. I haven't GPSed it. It's probably 90. But the thing of it's just like any of these bikes though. Any of the bikes that are in and any older Daytonas like mine, it could be the T595 or the T595N, which is the 02 to whenever they quit making the 955s, 06, 07. Any of those bikes, they're so torquey that they just love that, that cruising speed. It's kind of weird. You wouldn't, it's hard not to run that kind of speed with that bike. So yeah, there's VMAX in the H, yes. And guys, thank you very much. Base and Slash, I appreciate you guys. And yeah, I'm looking, my wife and I are looking at bikes. I think we might actually end up going to an Indian dealership this weekend, possibly. Jake's asking, what would be ideal specs for you for a cam running forged internals and a turbo on a 5.7, also with 1320 torque converter work, or go with 3200 stall? A lot of unanswered questions. I can't really answer that because there's not a lot of info there. So, first of all, it's a turbo. All right, so let's start there. Turbos don't care what cam you put in. They just don't. It doesn't matter. There's not an ideal cam though, because I don't know what you're going to be using the car for. Is it a drag race car? Mainly street use? Are you going to be running a different intake? You're talking about forged internals. Are you really planning on spinning this thing? Are you cool with this thing spinning to 7,800 RPM? Again, street car versus race car, be realistic here. The intake manifold is really going to dictate what kind of cam I would suggest, because the intake manifold is going to kind of tell me what you're going to be using the car for. But I mean, it really doesn't matter. Also, too, I don't know what fuel you're going to be running. So for me, I would say 3,200 RPM stall. Circle D makes a couple that are really good with the HP 70s. And again, if you're going to be running an HP 70, you got to worry about torque, holding capacity there as well. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I would say, look, if this is going to be a street setup with a turbo, which is where most of these cars end up going, let's say you go twins, any of the stage 2 offerings will be fine for that. At enough, so with a set of turbos, or if you went with a Pro Charger, something along those lines, at what would be considered not maxing out ahead, the compressor unit for pulley ratio for a blower, for again, centrifugal, not talking about a positive displacement, or if, you're planning on running the thing on pump gas, you're going to be limited anyway in terms of boost. And you're limited there because of discharge temp. Again, just rock with any of the stage 2 offerings. It's not really going to make a big difference. And again, turbos are funny because they're a cheat code. The turbochargers are cheat codes. That's all they are. You're just a turn of a knob away from making another pound or two of boost if you want to make more power, right? So boost is relative. So, 10 pounds of boost on one engine is not 10 pounds of boost on another. And when you're talking about cams, any of the stage 2s that are easily tunable are going to have an LSA, it's a lobe separation angle of somewhere around 115, 116. Would I say that's ideal? Well, for somebody like me that does their own tuning and would be basically building something around the stock intake, I would say, I would like to see something tighter, like 113, 114 at the most, and would probably want to honestly see something around 112 there. But, ICL around 110-ish, 109. But again, there's so many different variables that once you start talking turbos, it's like, well, the cam really doesn't matter as much. The heads don't matter as much. And at this stage, it's just pumping this thing full of boost. And the idea is you cram this thing full of boost. I should say air pressure, because I don't really want to talk boost. It's just cram as much air into the thing as you possibly can. Cam it for what you're going to be doing with it. And be realistic with the choices that you're making, and know that there's always going to be compromises, whether it's drivability, fuel sensitivity, and all the rest of the stuff. Transmission, how well it'll hold on to the power itself. There's a lot you got to consider, but for the average guy that's only going to be looking at maybe 10 pounds of boost on a cam 5.7, again, any cam is good. Matter of fact, stock cam doesn't necessarily suck with a turbo. It's on a 115 LSA. So you're going forged internals, and that thing's coming apart anyway. So the cam's going to get swapped out. But I'm just saying. By the way, get you a set of Stanke tie bars and collars if you plan on spinning that thing up into the stratosphere. Base saying I'm at 20,000, so I guess I can go to 100,000. Probably, yes. Base saying money pit, boat, yeah, for sure. Sovereign, what happened? Did I miss something? Arthur got the cadence right. Got the ball guy with the flex and the shades. I like it. X is in. What's up, man? Kong's asking, should you at least have a bit of car knowledge when you own a high horsepower car? What you should do is, I would say you would want to have a strong working knowledge of the car, but more than anything, you need to have a strong working knowledge of the dynamics of how that particular car performs. I see way too many people doing way too many stupid things and getting themselves killed. Okay. I know nobody really wants to go there, but that does happen. I've seen it happen. It's not cool. And it's noobs that don't know what they're doing. And have frankly just gotten lucky a lot. There's a lot of luck that you can wear out, and then things just, the problem is that a lot of times guys start to they think that their skill set is at a higher level than it is. And what they don't realize is that you find yourself in situations where you think you don't even know that you're in danger, and then you're in big, big trouble. And in this case, this is the trouble is a word that means it's going to be expensive, whether that expense is in money and or your health. can go in any direction with that. So I always try to tell guys, look, if you're planning on getting something that is high horsepower, high involvement, learn how to drive the car. But there's nothing wrong with taking the thing to a track, learning how to drive the thing is more important than anything else. Start off with something smaller, lower power, and grow up within that platform to where when you take a next step up, if that's what you decide to do, then you'll have a lot of working knowledge. You may find that what you have is plenty fast and you enjoy it and you're cool with it, and that you don't need to see over the fence because you're just happy with where you're at. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You're under no obligation to level up either. If you find that you're happy, the thing puts a smile on your face, roll with that, because there are a host of people out there that have leveled up and then leveled up again and wish like hell they wouldn't have done it. So just know that coming into it, and you'll be good. Colin's asking, if I buy a new wide body Scat Pack, how much horsepower can I get maximum safely while modding it? Just leave it stock. The thing is if you're buying a Scat Pack, you don't need to be worrying about how much power you can get out of it. That's not really the mission statement of that Scat Pack, because you're going to end up sinking so much money into that Scat Pack that you should have bought a Hellcat, and you could have bought a Hellcat by the time you spend the money on supercharging, transmission upgrades, camshafts, etc. The list goes on and on and on. There's no upper limit. You're only limited by your funds, frankly. In general, though, to answer your question directly, on a Mustang dyno, I don't like to see more than about 530 foot-pounds of torque. I'm not really worried about the horsepower, but it's roughly 530 foot-pounds of torque. 550 foot-pounds of torque is when the transmission starts to suffer a little bit. Nothing's wrong with the engine at that point, but there are other things downstream that are going to start to get stung. So just take that with a grain of salt. That's been my experience only, but there's other factors involved. There's a lot more to that question. Slice asking, can a Cook's catless mid-pipe paired with their long tubes be considered a collector extender? Sorta. I would say that you're looking at, it's a full exhaust at that point, so it's really not a collector extension. But I'll put it like this: if you're running headers, as long as you have at least 18 inches after the collector, you're going to be good. If you have a free-flowing exhaust and not chambered mufflers, that's about as good as running open collectors. It's not, it's good enough. You're not going to suffer anywhere. In fact, you'll pick up a little bit of torque down low. Kong's asking, how many years did it take you to have all the car knowledge you have now? It depends on which. So I've been exposed to a lot of this from an early age. So, I've been in and around this stuff for 30 years. I don't really have a point in my life where I haven't been around cars, working on cars, motorcycles, working in shops, all of that. I've been able to learn from some really good people and, from some really experienced folks too. So, I'm just kind of paying some of that experience and knowledge forward. I said the cars that run at Texas 2K are insane. You absolutely. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the super insane stuff that you guys see at 2K, those things are about as close to a stock car as a NASCAR is to a stock car. I'll be real honest with you. There's a lot of it looks like tractor pull motors. Honestly, they got a lot of billet blocks, solid blocks. In fact, in some cases, there's a lot of race car stuff that goes into those things. And so when you see those cars, just know that these aren't cars that you're going to see roll up to Cars and Coffee per se. Mainly because they can mainly only run for about 10 minutes before they have to be shut off, if even that long. Oh, Skids, yeah, say yeah, just buy a Hellcat. Complex is in. What's up? Madera's in. What's up, buddy? Skids, oh, be at least the Hellcat, they can start with 500 horse mode. You can. And that's the cool thing about a Hellcat is they do have 500 horse mode, and I can verify that that's a mid 11-second car in 500 horse mode. The thing about the Hellcat is that it is built like a tank. People not harsh on the Hellcat because it's it's heavy and but it's not. The thing is that it's built heavy duty, HP 90 transmission, a lot of good stuff going on with that car to keep it very durable. So, show me another car that has had a proven track record of being on track the way that Hellcats have for as long as they have been with the few numbers of issues that they have had. It's kind of tough to do. Donald saying, hey, been a while, Mr. B, coming across 2 rides, an 87 Stang and an 85 K5 Blazer. We'll hit you up on Instagram soon. Cool, hit me up, man. Cons, have you ever seen a TRX? Oh, yeah. It is so really fast for what it is because it seems very heavy. They're very heavy and they're very fast and they're very cool trucks. No, the Hellcat Kong is the supercharger is working. It's only making 5 pounds of boost though. Oh, but Eric said, I really wish more diesel cars were made in America. But yeah, back in the day, that got squashed quite a bit. So, and the thing is that it's not that people in the States wouldn't drive them. They just, for the longest time, like you say, had a bad rap. If they had somebody that would champion some diesels, I think we'd be in a lot better shape. Basically, I don't have a red key, unfortunately, but I do enjoy it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with 500 horsepower Hemi, especially one as snappy as those cars are. I was just saying, that's awesome. I am blown away by talking about the 2K cars. Blown away by the amount of money they put into those cars. Always cool to watch them. No, they're awesome to watch. I mean, it's amazing. So, yeah, back in the day, 2K in its infancy was put together by a lot of guys like me. We were all roll race guys, and a lot of Vipers, a lot of Supras. There wasn't any, nothing like a, GTRs or anything like that. It just didn't exist. But you had the LS crowd was coming in strong with the Corvettes, lots of boosted stuff, lots of nitrous. But it was interesting back then, a car that was making 1,000 horsepower to the rear wheels was significant. And that was on a regular dyno jet, not on a Mustang dyno. And it's been really interesting to watch as these cars have evolved. And I stepped away from a lot of this stuff for a number of years, and it's kind of an interesting thing where, and we're starting to see this a lot too, where a lot of guys are moving away from the high horsepower stuff. I'm not going to say there's a lack of interest there. There still is. I mean, it draws crowds, but I don't think that there's a lot of people that aren't drawn enough to the high horsepower scene to spend money on it. You're seeing a lot less of that. Now you are seeing guys, and this is so weird. Not saying this isn't because of me, but you're starting to see guys with bikes that are a lot more interested in the bike, like a sport bike. The 200 horsepower thing is great, but realistically, it's far too much. A lot of guys are more into the 155 to the 175, maybe 180 horse range. But these are guys that have had the big horsepower bikes. The same thing goes with cars. And this happens to happen a lot, guys. I can tell you that the statistic that I kind of came up with, a little bit of a Kentucky windage thing, but the perform, the statistic that I found was that guys that were modifying cars, it really was more of a Hellcat thing initially, and in some respect the NA stuff, but the guys that had modified Hellcats, between 6 and 11 months, that car was going to get sold. It might go to 13 months. Rarely would it go much further than that, where guys would have one of these cars and keep it more than a year after they started really digging into it and modifying it. And the thing with a Hellcat is that nobody builds Hellcats the way that my car's set up. This car is, it's myself, Tim Mopar, and I think we're it. Nobody else is doing the stock boost Hellcat thing on 93 octane anymore. It's not a thing. Nobody really cares about the class, and it's really only me and Jim Mopar. I don't know why I said Tim. But even then, I mean, we're so limited by density altitude. I mean, it's just, anyway, this my car is a definite outlier. There's a couple of us that are like that, but once you go from running legit in great weather 1050s 1040s to 950s 940s, there's not a lot of in between with Hellcats, and there's some, if you do it sensibly, you can have a 980 car that's a lot of fun, that's perfectly streetable, and runs on pump gas too, by the way. 980, 990. Put it like this, you'll have a 9 somewhere in there. Those are fun cars. But the reality is that you're not going to find people holding on to them once you start introducing pulleys into the mix. And it's because they're just not fun anymore. They're already too fast for the street. And the weird thing about a Hellcat is that it doesn't feel as fast as it is. It is a stock Hellcat is extremely similar to my motorcycle, my T595. Eerily enough, they both have roughly the same power to weight ratio. But it's weird that, a stock Hellcat does not feel as fast as it is, and it certainly doesn't feel as fast as you're going. I will definitely say that. So there's a lot of want to hot rod a Hellcat, and then you get into it, and now it's just scary. And nothing is going to prepare you for a car that will go, especially once you start putting pulleys on the thing, that will go from highway speeds to 140, 150 miles an hour in about as much time for your brain to register that you're not making a very wise decision. What the hell is up my face? This happens on the show a lot. That you're not making a very smart decision, right? It's like, this is fun, neato, mosquito, 155 miles an hour. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And the thing is that spooks people. That is subterranean, as my buddy Rob would say, in terms of where they put you in the jail. So, and again, this is one of the reasons why a lot of guys end up getting themselves hurt with Scat Packs and Hellcats, is that they are very fast, but because of the size of the car, you never get a sense of how fast you're going. So, anyway, what do I do with my glasses? Here they are. All right, let me get back to you guys. I say, back in my day, damn it. Better believe it. Let's see. Kong, the fastest 8th mile will be a Scat Pack. Roll racing will be the Mustang GT. The Camaro falls in between. Quarter mile, usually Scat Pack will win. Camaro may give it a fit, and that's only if they're all stock. And the newest Mustang GTs are right there with them as well in the quarter mile. Kong wants to make the thing loud. The problem with loud is that they sound like shit when you start pulling the mufflers off of them. They're an X-pipe design, and X-pipes, because of how they're designed, you are compressing a sound wave in essence, and it gives it a higher tone. Um, and they sound awful without the mufflers. I would not recommend it. If you want something loud, there's catbacks that at least sound good that are somewhat loud. But loud, unless you remove the skids, no mufflers, take all the mufflers out. That's the best way to do it if you just want to make it loud. But I tell you what, there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that is more shrill and annoying sounding than one of the Hemis with an X pipe with no mufflers on the dyno. It's just, and especially if it's a Hellcat. The Hellcats with no mufflers are just gross sounding. They don't come with much of a muffler to begin with. Mid muffler delete. Yeah, it's Skid saying, save up some money, put a nice cat back on it. Don't make it sound like crap. Believe me. Skid saying, you can answer 70% of the questions with buy a scat pack. Yeah, and the other 30% are buy a Hellcat. Very true. There's talking about the diesels. Yeah. It'd be cool if they had more, and if they had more powerful options for some of these. They said, I got a ticket, my scat. I didn't realize I was going over the speed limit 23 miles an hour. That's, yeah, they kind of, law enforcement will typically frown on that activity. Skids is checking in with Sovereign. Saying you can lose track of the speed real quick. Yep. They saying Sovereign. They say I'm good with my Mopar H pipe stock pipes. The stock with the stock mufflers sounds good. I would just leave it at that with those cars. But yeah, guys. So anyway, I wanted to get on quick. I do have to knock off a little bit early. I've got. See, what time is it? Yeah, it's coming up on 9:30 my time. So anyway, guys. Hopefully, I got to answer some of y'all's questions. I always like the cam questions. So if you ever have cam questions, just hit me up. I try to help folks out as much as I can with that, but. This is the place to come to ask those questions, because if somebody hits me up on the comment section, it takes too long to thumb out a response. So anyway, but with that, I wanted to bring you guys updates on the Triumph, the car. You guys, if you haven't seen it, I tried to fix the Dr. Fix-It chip. Anyway, check that out. Bummer about the boat, but it kind of is what it is. But anyway, guys, with that, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out. If you're watching this after it went live, and if you made it this far, then this doesn't really matter. But hey, sorry about the commercials if I haven't removed them yet, or I've already removed them and you're wondering what it is that I'm talking about. YouTube will throw a lot of commercials at live shows. I have to go in there and remove them. So anyway, guys, thank y'all so much for hanging out. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, that's a wrap. Adios.